I clicked the wrong open, didn't I?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know what that is.
All right, let's try this one.
How come all the other shows have these great rock openings, and for the Dan Wickline show, I have dee, 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 dee.
I think because you told me you liked Motown at one point.
Nope, didn't say that.
I know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
I got no ads. I got no love.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to In Stores This Week. I'm Dan. That's Kyle. And we're going to talk about comics. Yeah, we got a bunch of comics, about 14 of them on my list right now. Kyle, we're going to lose for a little bit, but we got about 14 comics on the list here. We're going to kick things off with...
I'm so punchy. I don't even... I can't even... What? Yes. Welcome in the internet. Yeah, let's start with a comic, and then we'll talk about... let's start with this one. So I noticed that you've hit another benchmark, and you've got another stretch goal coming, Dan.
Yep, yeah. We're over 34,000 right now. We're at close to 750 backers. And we not only have another one coming up, but they also we're talking about the ones after that. So we've got high hopes for this book at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it, and the two so far are really really cool looking trading cards, except for the giant black box in the middle, which is, I assume,
we're not gonna...
they haven't finished yet.
No, the giant black box is the censorship, because those are some pretty risque scenes from the book.
Yes, absolutely. But I did want to talk about this book because last week, just before our interview, you gave it to me, and I had to read the whole book in like 25 minutes. Which I couldn't do, so I just skimmed it very quickly. I read it this past weekend.
Oh, really? What did you think?
It was very, 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 very good. And if 30% of it is real life, damn. If more than 30% of it is real life, it's true that reality is stranger than fiction.
Oh, yeah. I've had a very odd life. I really have. And those aren't all the stories. I saved some for a possible sequel.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things is I'm reading it and I'm going, this is something that someone would make up, but I know you didn't. So I'm going, how is this? This didn't happen. This couldn't, no. Like, that was kind of my reaction the whole time. Like, I couldn't finish sentences. But no, and at the end, you find yourself really rooting for the main characters to, like, have a sequel story. Like, where they're just, like, living in Nebraska, like, having this quiet life that isn't possible for either of them.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I think Alex could do a nice quiet life, but...
Right. Karma couldn't.
Right.
But you know what I mean? It's one of those things is I felt for them like I felt for Hawkeye after... What movie was it where he tried to retire?
All of them?
Yeah, pretty much. But as you see him go home to Linda Cardellini, and it's like, oh, he has this whole other thing. Like, I felt for them like I felt for Hawkeye and his wife. So, congratulations. It's a wonderful book.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I think you're one of the few people who've had a chance to read it. You and Paul, who didn't get to interview me when we were supposed to. But yeah, I'm really excited for it to get out there for people to read it. And for those who don't know anything about it, it is a kind of a slice of life, erotic, romantic story. It's a kind of straight-laced photographer pulled into the world of this supermodel named Karma. It's similar. I was heavily influenced by, in the 80s, there used to be a lot of movies, like I think that Jeff Goldblum did one where they get kind of pulled into this wild person's life as they try to hang on. It was kind of that in my mind because I've had a lot of weird stuff like that happen. And a good number of the actual events that happen in the story are from things that have happened, not always with the same person. So I've used events from my life to kind of sew together this romantic affair between, Karma and Alex.
And the other backdrop I was setting this against, ironically, is I have a friend who recently got a job as a swing on Broadway. And if you don't know what a swing is someone who can do any number of roles in a musical or a play. They're kind of like a generic understudy.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend posts this video of himself literally like stripping to his underwear in the wings in between scenes, because in the next scene he was going on as a different character than he was playing in the first scene. And it's this kind of idea of there are jobs and there are situations you find yourself in where what the average person considers, or I don't want to say average person considers, but what you might think of as decency or whatever, like it's just not weird for people like Karma or my friend to just, these situations that might feel awkward to other people are not awkward to them.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
It really is a kind of a interesting backdrop to see people kind of go through it.
Just to give a sample of the oddness of my life, I once found myself in Vegas, Halloween night, with a porn star, her best friend, running around the casinos in costume. They're both in costumes. They're both in little children's costumes that they've stretched to cover themselves.
Sure.
One a cop, one a criminal. And the closest thing I could get to a costume is I had the sock puppet from the old pets.com commercials. And the sock puppet almost got into a fist fight.
Yeah, that seems right.
Yeah. Those are the kind of odd moments I have in my life. And that one doesn't show up in the book. That may be saved for the sequel. I'm not sure yet.
Right. That's definitely one we need in the sequel. I've got one for you, Dan, that I'll give you if you need more for the sequel. But from my life, but we will continue to talk about Karma until this thing gets to $100 million on Kickstarter. So,
I appreciate it.
But I just want to tell you that I actually sat down and read all, 120 pages.
Yep.
Like this weekend, and I was really blown away. So, okay. Let's start with some comics. I will caveat this by saying I read two of these books. Like for content, I did go through all of them and kind of skim and read quickly all of them. But we'll start with Cowboy Bebop #1.
Yeah. Now I'm a little confused by this one because Titan says it comes out next week, but it's on this week's list. So it sounds like it's going to be one of those that comes out depending on your shop at different times. So some of you are going to get it this week, some next week, some the week after. And we're talking about a series we're talking about a comic series based off a TV series that's already been canceled.
Well, that's based off a manga.
Off a manga.
It's based off an anime or an anime.
This is based off the TV show.
No, I understand, but the TV show was based off the anime, which is based off the manga, and the TV show is dead. And in my skim of this, I noticed one thing very dramatically.
What's that?
It doesn't hold a candle to the manga.
I've never read the manga, so I can't really compare it. But
however,
this does have the feel of the TV series.
Yeah. However, that's okay because the TV series couldn't live up to the anime. It had to kind of form its own path.
Mm-hmm.
And this feels like the TV series. So at this point, I'm just chalking them up as not being related.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. Okay, so this one's related to the TV series where the manga is related to the anime. They just happen to have the same name.
Mm-hmm.
And Cowboy Bebop is one of those anime and mangas that, for so many people, was so seminal in their fandom of the genre that no TV show could ever live up to it.
Yeah.
And neither could a comic. But if you take each of them individually, they all stand on their own.
Mm-hmm. I've watched some of the anime, but after I watched the TV show, I enjoyed the TV show and I was disappointed that it got canceled. And I like the fact that this pick continues that. So if you liked the first season of the TV show, at least you get some more here. It's not an adaptation; they're doing new stories, but so it was fun, and it's the art's interesting. Yeah.
Well, and knowing that, I could see this being in a big way like the Firefly comic books are. Where we want more of that universe. We're never going to get another Firefly TV show.
Right.
As much as we beg and scream and yell, they're never going to bring back the show. So you got to get your stories where you can. And the comics have proved a very good delivery mechanism for more stories in that universe. So this could be a great methodology for that. Mm-hmm. Okay. This is Angel #1. Talk about another show that's off the air, but they keep extending the story and telling us more great stories in the universe outside of the television show.
So Angels actually seems to be getting into the multiverse here, because this is a very different world. We have a character that's jumping through different realities anyway, but this is a world where Angel and Cordelia are the stars of a TV show that is pretty much the Rockford Files, from what I could tell. Or at least it's, the opening credit scenes look like the Rockford Files. And it's, all about how these two get so caught up with the TV show that it puts the rest of their friends in danger who are still trying to do the slaying stuff.
What would be interesting for me, and again, I didn't get to read a ton of this. I read it very quickly. We've got this really great Buffy book that's coming out, The Last Slayer.
Mm-hmm.
What would be really great for me, and a great payoff for this book, in my opinion, is to find out that they're happening similar time. That Angel and Cordelia also being basically immortal. This is the future, and Buffy is in the situation she's in, and they're in this situation, and it all kind of comes together at the end.
Yeah,
that would be really cool.
I think this is more of a today book, where the other one's the future, and the only common ground I find in it is Spike.
There's worse common ground.
Yeah, true.
So, true. But that's kind of what I'm saying. Is I saw Spike and I'm like, this would be a cool way to bring it all together. But
I agree.
Without that, I think this book has good legs. I love the art style in it.
Yeah.
It kind of felt a little film noir-y.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Bayliss does a great job with it. We have demons, which is what I say after I eat Arby's.
This is an interesting book. It's Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. I don't remember if we did the first book. Did we cover the first book?
I don't remember reading it. Precisely.
Yeah,
we've read so many of these Capullo books that I
mean Snyder books.
The Snyder Capullo books.
Yeah.
that
Well,
I've
Snyder, I think
forgotten.
Snyder's only doing this one from for Comixology, where or Capullo's only doing this one, where Snyder has like 5 books from Comixology.
No, he's doing a couple.
Yeah,
And if he's not, then we did have read a previous issue of this.
I know he's doing at least a couple, but um, if you're a great Capullo fan, grab this book. It's gorgeous.
Yes.
It's great looking book. Story wise, it's a little confusing if you're jumping in on the 3rd episode, as you would expect. But the basic concept is pretty straightforward. There's what they call halos and demons, and they're fighting. And there's a group of these people in white who are being put together to take them out. And halos appear to be meteorites or metal that they make swords out of. It's kind of an interesting setup.
So we haven't on this show read previous, but this was one of the books they were giving away for free at New York Comic Con, which is why I'm going. I know I've read some of this.
Right. Now this is a Comixology original digitally coming out, but isn't the first printed issue coming out from Dark Horse this week as well?
I'm not 100. Again, that's one of those things. I'm not 100% sure. I've not really figured out the Comixology originals
Give me one
schedule
second.
and methodology.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I saw it on this week's comics list.
Yeah. The thing I would point out with this this book is how much it looks like the Capullo stuff that you expect with Snyder. It has a very similar feel to his Batman run. It has a very similar feel to the Dark Knight's Metal stuff they did together. Jonathan Glapion is the inker on it, and he inks Capullo's pencils better than really anybody.
Yeah.
And it just is a absolutely visually stunning book.
Absolutely.
I don't know, what did you find about the imprint versions?
I didn't. For some reason, I saw. I think I got confused by Dynamic Forces has #1 up on their special for the day, or they did.
I think so. I think when we get these books, I think is when the print runs come out. Because like I said, I think I read the first issue digitally way back in October. And I know it's come out since then in physical media. So
yeah,
we will endeavor, viewers. We will endeavor to figure out the release schedule.
Yeah, it turns out Dynamic Forces has signed copies by both Capullo and Scott Snyder. So if you like your book signed or CG graded, that's a good place to check it out, dynamicforces.com.
Yeah, absolutely. Which I may have to grab this one because I think this is one of those books that it would benefit to have that. All right. Cloaked. This is one that I read every word of and poured over every page. Because, well, I loved the first book so much that I wanted to really spend the time with it.
It does feel like Mike Richardson just really, really, really wanted to do a Batman story in his own way. Mm-hmm. And went, wait a minute, I own a publishing company, and just came up with the Sentinel / Grim Reaper character, or Reaper character.
Yeah. But it feels a little less controlled than most Batman books have to be.
Mm-hmm.
it to me feels a little more like a Bill Finger Batman era kind of Batman. Back before it was, oh, Batman doesn't kill people, Batman doesn't use guns.
Oh yeah, the early days.
Yeah.
Where Batman puts Catwoman over his leg and spanks her.
Well, I wasn't gonna say that, but yes. Like I said, it feels like the way Batman maybe was intended to feel before it got super PC.
Yeah.
And not even super PC, but before the code for sure.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed the art style in it. I really enjoyed the look. You know, the whole thing has got this kind of blue tone to it that makes it feel like everything happens at dusk.
Yeah.
But yeah, this, you can see it from the cover. This issue had a legally different than the Joker character.
The lunatic. Yes.
Right.
Yep.
You
and
know,
a legally different than Vicky Vale character.
Right. But I still enjoyed the hell out of it. I really did.
Yeah. Oh no, it's a good book, and it's interesting. It's got a good mystery going on, and I'm really curious what's going to happen next. And a little of it was predictable, like what happens to the Vicky Vale-ish character.
Right.
But
well, and there's some of that yeah. When you've read Batman, you kind of know what happens in a Batman story.
Yeah.
This is a Batman story, but there's some twists that you don't normally get. So it keeps me interested and involved in it. Yeah, I'm interested to see who the Sentinel is, who Sentry is.
You know what actually it feels like to me? It just clicked. Is if you, it's like Richardson is like, okay, this is the Batman we got in the beginning, the original creation. And now we're going to get rid of all the things that made him the softer character. We get rid of the sidekick, the reporter. So it kind of feels like he's doing away with the things that took him into the campy 70s and campy 60s.
Right. That's very much it. It's Batman without the other stuff.
Yeah.
So
where he becomes almost the Punisher instead.
Basically. All right. Let's do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 125. First appearance of the Punk Frogs.
Is that what it was? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You told me there was a first appearance of somebody, and I'm looking through this book, and I went, oh, the baby?
Yes. No, this is the first appearance of the Punk Frogs. It's a TMNT first appearance. Like most TMNT first appearances, it didn't feel like a first appearance. TMNT 126 is really going to be where you figure out what these characters are and what they do. But I thought it was worth skimming and pointing out. So, and we didn't decide to read this one until late in the day, so I don't know if Dan got to it or not. I literally just kind of
I did.
through it.
I read it. I spent all morning reading comics. So,
did you have any thoughts on it?
This world, the world they currently have going, still confuses me a bit because my knowledge of turtles is minor. So I see a bunch of Krang-looking characters. Krang, the brain guy?
Krang.
Krang. So I see a bunch of Krang-looking characters, and I see Triceratop people. Then I see Casey Jones get his ass kicked, look like he's really hurt. And I'm trying to piece all this together because I haven't read Turtles in a long time. Last issue was the first one I've probably read in 20 years. So
right,
it's a very different feel to me, and I don't know if I'm into it yet or not.
And that's a fair assessment. Like I said, I wanted to put it on the show. I wanted to read it because first appearance in a Turtles book. Like, you don't get a ton of new development in the Turtles, except for
are they the punk frogs or are they the Teenage Mutant punk frogs?
everything in this book is Teenage Mutant.
I know, but the fact is they only cover two. They leave 2 words of the title.
Right. So I mean, they're the punk frogs. But yeah, they're the Teenage Mutant punk frogs. Just like they're the radioactive adolescent, radioactive karate hamsters. Yeah.
Black belt hamsters.
Yeah, black belt hamsters. But you know what I mean? It's like I said, I was let down by it, but as I've been reading the Turtles now my entire life, I know that a first appearance is just a first appearance. They usually, don't really swing into action until the second issue that they appear in.
Okay.
I will say this though, it feels like there's been new characters added and new stuff thrown into the TMNT universe a lot recently for the sake of throwing new things in it. I don't know about other people, but I didn't feel like Jenica paid off the way it could have.
Mm-hmm.
And there's still more to be told there, so don't get me wrong. But just feels a little bit like, hey, pay attention to me. But we'll see what happens. The punk frogs give me hope because frogs.
Right.
Edgar Allan Poe's Snifter of Death. I don't know why we keep reading this book, Dan.
The Ted Cruz story. Other than the fact that they spelled his name like Tom Cruise instead of like the senator actually does, Ted Cruz is a werewolf. That's pretty much all you need to know on this thing. There's an entire story about Ted Cruz being a werewolf. There's a bar scene with Edgar Allan Poe and Robert Louis Stevenson, which is a nod to Jekyll and Hyde. And there's a story about that's all about the pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the issue.
I had an interesting meeting today with my Poe my people at Poe House. January 30th is the 200th anniversary of the death of Virginia Poe, who was Edgar Allan Poe's wife. And we're gearing up to commemorate that.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
She was a child bride, Dan.
I did not.
It was also kind of an arranged thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it was much more common at the time. But I get to get on these calls with these museum people and be just like, so tell me more about the child brides, and watch them all squirm.
Yeah, well, you gotta remember that things were different, and
and it's one of those things
wrong,
but she was 14 and he was 18. It was one of those the age difference wasn't that big.
Yeah,
but because
at a time where people didn't live that long either.
Right. But because of the definitions of things, I get to make these jokes.
Yeah.
There was one person on the call who wanted to talk about, how prevalent laudanum was at the time and cocaine. And I go, man, if only I had been Victorian, I'd have had a lot of fun.
You'd be dead.
Well, yeah, most people didn't live to be the age I am.
They definitely didn't live the age to be I am.
Yeah.
That was English, I think. Okay. The age to be I am.
Do we need to take a break?
Yeah. I smell burnt toast. No.
Right. We're going to take a quick break. We're not going to go anywhere. I just want to remind everybody that immediately following this program with Dan and I, we will have, as part of the EXP Expo, Ben Humanick. I'm gonna have to ask him before we go live exactly the pronunciation of his last name. But Ben is an educator and a comic cartoonist who works in all ages books, specifically STEM-oriented all ages books, promoting science, technology, engineering, and math. And he's got some new books out and some really cool stuff. And I'm excited to hear about how he's using comics to educate people. And then immediately following him, at 10 o'clock Eastern, Mog Park, who you may recognize as one of the artists involved in the concept art for Game of Thrones, will be joining us, and she will be drawing a steampunk Darth Vader live on the air for you that you should have an opportunity to purchase.
Isn't Darth Vader already steampunk?
Yeah, but I think he's going to have more cogs and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Like external cogs. Darth Vader has a lot of internal cogs. This will be like decorative.
Oh, okay. Because he's from a long galaxy, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So
yeah, but still somehow in the future.
Yeah, but not.
Yeah. Star Wars' problem with time has never been something we've discussed enough.
I know. They're everything is BBY or ABY. So
right. We haven't talked since episode 3 of the book of Danny Trejo came out.
Yes.
Which was the high point of the episode. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah, it was.
I'm like, oh, it's Machete.
Darth of Future Past. Good, Jeff.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. Darth of Future Past. Yes.
Yeah. I was disappointed in the episode.
Mm-hmm. But hey, guess what we got?
Danny Trejo.
Yeah. And Boba Fett is going to ride a Rancor. Yep. Which now I want to ride a Rancor.
Omega already has his technical sister already has.
Oh, that's true.
Moochie.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But I also I decided after watching that episode that I need to own a Tauntaun. And so my friends have just been sending me like Build-A-Bear Tauntauns.
Uh-huh.
Like, hey, you should just get this one. Hey, you should get... No, I want one I can ride.
Kyle, there's fantasy worlds in real worlds.
I don't care that it's a plushie, Dan. I just want it to be a giant plushie.
There's a Tauntaun sleeping bag or a Tauntaun thing you can crawl into.
Close enough. I'm in. All right. Let's get back to the comics.
All right.
Purgatory issue 4. This cover is going to give me nightmares.
Yeah. I got to say, I kind of forgot about this book. It feels like it's been a while since we had the 3rd episode or issue. And, but as soon as I picked it, it's like, have I been reading Purgatory? Oh, yeah, I have. And get into it. And still good. Still a good story. I like where it's going. I like the whole trying to figure out what the witches are doing. I like how crazy the witches are becoming. I do find it interesting that we get a little bit of her past. We flash back to when she is Sakara in Egypt, which is an era of hers that I've written. So that was kind of cool to see her go back to that. But yeah, the art on this book is really good. The story is still good. It's going well. So if you haven't been picking this up, you probably want to take a look and see if they got some back issues at the store and get to this story.
Yeah, this cover is just hugely creepy.
Yeah.
But the story looked great. Like I said, I read it very quickly. But it unlike some of the books we sometimes get from Dynamite in these series, where it feels like, hey, this is issue 4. Doesn't really do much. This one really did keep the wheels turning and going quicker. Yeah. So
agreed.
All right. The Rush number 3.
Now we missed the Rush number 2, didn't we?
We did.
Because this doesn't feel like the same book that we read. There's no guy in the spider legs or nothing.
Well, that we know of. Like, that's fair.
Right.
He doesn't appear in this book. That doesn't mean he doesn't exist still.
Right. But we do have a moose that's crying gold. So
I live close enough to Canada to know that you don't question what moose do.
What's the plural of moose?
Moose.
Not meese?
No. Also technically correct are mooses. But like you have 2 moose, you have 60 mooses. A flock of moose are mooses.
The idea of
A
a
flock of
flock of moose.
seagulls is a band from the 80s.
Yes. And 2 crows are an attempted murder. So this book continues with the mother still trying to find out more information about what happened to her son. Now, I think she's aware that her son is dead and he's not going to come back, but she's trying to dig into it. A lot of weird stuff is going on. They're seeing a lot of strange creatures, and it all comes around that area where the gold does seem to keep coming up enough to make people stay. So it's like, we're all going to die, but there's a lot of gold. So it's kind of an interesting story. And this woman who could care less about the gold at all, she wants nothing to do with the gold. She just wants to know about her son. And so this whole story is about a woman trying to find out what happened to her son with all this supernatural and bizarre stuff going on around her, set during the gold rush. It's a fascinating story. The artwork is gorgeous in it. The writing is really well done. I think I have access to the second issue. I want to go back and read the second one and then reread this one.
Yeah, send it to me if you do.
Okay. But yeah, Vault Comics is killing it with this one.
Vault Comics has been on fire. It's been great. I have a question for you, Dan.
Yes, sir.
If the 2 crows that make up an attempted murder have cornrows, do you have to count them? Shadow Man number 5.
Love this book. This is my favorite book of the week. I am enjoying the hell out of this series. The first 4 issues, they took a break. They're back with this one. The artwork is just gorgeous. The writing is great. There's a world building going on that you don't see in a lot of stuff lately. Colin is doing an amazing job here. And where Shadow Man had never been really high on my list for Valiant books, I was more Ninjak and Exo. This is absolutely fabulous. And again, my pick of the week, hands down. And if you haven't picked, there's a trade for the first 4 issues. If you haven't read it, get the trade. This thing is awesome.
Yeah, this book looks just stunning. And I've really enjoyed it as well. Like Dan said, I've never been a Shadow Man guy. I'm a big Cullen Bunn fan. So I thought, well, because Cullen Bunn's writing it, I'm gonna, I can go on it for a while just on that alone. But it really has gone out of its way to be like, no, here's why you like me. And while I didn't get a chance to really dig through this book the way I would normally like to, I definitely will be tomorrow when I pick up my copy from the store. So it's, if you've never read a Shadow Man story, try and get that first trade. But if you can't, just jump in here. Feels like a good place to jump in.
Yeah.
And get behind a long running character from a very sturdy company written by one of the best writers going right now.
Yep. Between this and Harbinger, they're hitting on all cylinders right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Dan, should I have let my Adam Duritz joke breathe a little bit more before?
What is your Adam Duritz joke?
If an attempted murder had dreadlocks, you have to count them. That's right. That is a Counting Crows joke.
Yeah.
Look. Stan Sakai every year wins what would arguably be considered a butt ton of Ringo Awards.
Yes.
And a butt ton of other awards for his work on Usagi Yojimbo.
Mm-hmm.
He deserves every one of them.
Yes.
This book was fantastic.
And it's really mostly it's just those two walking together.
Right. It's nothing happens, but you hang on it. And this is one of those that I would say I skimmed it.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the way Stan writes Usagi, you don't have to sit down and fine tooth comb through the words and really dig deep into each panel. You can really just kind of enjoy this as a light read.
Yeah.
And it's not a light read. But Dan, we get so many books, and Dan, you can attest to this, that are dark and heavy, and you feel the weight on your soul after you read them. And this one, you just don't. It's just enjoyable. It's just good.
Yeah. A lot of writers nowadays think dark and twisted is an important part for plot development, and it's not. Telling a good story is. Just being dark for dark's sake isn't, and you're never going to get that from Stan Sakai. He's telling you fables, he's telling you tales. He's a storyteller, and that to me is that's my highest compliment I can pay anybody that's a writer or a creator, is that you're a storyteller. And that's Stan Sakai, hands down. Just amazing stuff.
Yeah. Cursed Pirate Girl. This is Cursed Pirate Girl. The Devil's Cave #1 from Boom Archaea.
Mm-hmm. I don't know about this book. I tried. I got nothing.
You read it, right?
Sort of, yeah.
Okay. So here's what you need to know about the Cursed Pirate Girl. This book is sort of falls in that same kind of Lady Mechanica vein. If you haven't read Lady Mechanica Volume 1 and you try to jump in now on a volume that comes out, it might be a little difficult. That's what this book is. This book is high concept art. And just because it's #1 doesn't mean it's actually a #1. This is like a #4. There have been 2 other books in this series by Jeremy Bastian. 2 or 3 other books in this series that without them, this book makes very little sense. And the problem is these books come out so rarely because they take so long to make, that those other books in the series are nigh impossible to find.
Yep.
So I've seen them digitally before, and I've seen them at conventions. So I have at least some concept of what this is, and it's just more of that. And when you think of Archaea, you think of these high concept books like this, Mouse Guard, what are some of the other examples, Dan? I can't think of.
I can't any. Just as soon as you said that, I went, no, can't think of anything.
Right. Super high concept, super artsy. It isn't for everybody. And without those first 2 books, I would say it isn't for anybody. So if you can get a copy of them digitally or somewhere, you can buy them maybe through his site. Definitely pick those up before reading this one. But I thought it was just stunning to look at.
Yeah, the art is stunning. It's all black and white, though. So there isn't a lot of differentiation. And the dialogue and it's all over the place. So it is something you have to sit down and really spend time on reading, which doing 14 books in one morning before doing my own show and the other work I do today, really didn't have that opportunity to give it its proper due.
That's super true too. So we'll move on to James Bond, Himeros, number 4.
This continues to feel like any good James Bond movie. You know, it's there's a fun discussion in it. It's something I never thought about before. But James is getting into an airplane with this girl, and she's like, "You have a license?" And he's like, "No." And he starts turning everything on. She's like, "You can fly it?" And he's like, "Yeah, I can fly it. I just don't have a license." It's like, yeah, I guess James would have a lot of things that he could do that maybe he doesn't want to have officially out there that he can do.
Yeah, I mean, if I were James Bond, I wouldn't let anybody know everything I know.
Yeah. But there is this one section in the book that was very strange to me. And anybody who's reading this, if you're up to date on the Jeffrey Epstein saga, this is that. And there's this scene where this guy is basically explaining, he's trying to justify pedophilia. And it really was weird. It was uncomfortable because good storytelling, you make the villain the hero of his own story. I can't see that with this guy for what he was talking about. It was beyond creepy, and yeah, I'm enjoying the series. I think it's really well written and stuff, but that scene was just so you know?
Right. I feel like this book and this story in particular maybe would have been better off being held for a year or two. You know, when you have the Maxwell trial happening and Prince Andrew being stripped of his rank because this stuff is happening in the in public right now, and it's all very fresh for people. Mm-hmm. This book, while incredibly interesting, could be incredibly traumatizing. And so while I'm enjoying the book, I'm enjoying the writing, I feel bad for Rodney Barnes, who's writing it, for having to write it right now. Like with this in the background, like I'm sure that was never intended. Yeah. I'm sure that was never something that crossed anybody's mind, and I'm sure Rodney doesn't approach it that way. But like, it would be like having written a book where you have an Islamic terrorist come out at the same time 9/11 happened. Yeah. There's no way you can make that book stand apart from what's happening in the real world.
Yeah. And part of it is the justifying it, because that I don't think he needed to do that.
Right.
But the other part is that we've just seen Giselle Maxwell, or whatever, however pronounce her first name, get sentenced.
Right.
And she's a parallel of the female lead in this book.
Right.
And we see the female lead go back to the residence, and we see her room. It looks like when she was a kid. There's a teddy bear on the bed. And it's like really just a lot of it was off-putting on this time.
Yep. So we'll go from there to something that's thoroughly more whimsical and, well, it's going to give me the chance to say the word soggy bottom. Star Wars High Republic Adventures, The Great Galactic Bake-Off Spectacular.
This, I couldn't believe it when I saw this on the list. I'm like, what? So I put it on our list. I downloaded it. I now want to make what they're making, because the recipe, the whole thing is a group of Jedi and Padawans are getting together to bake. And it's Yoda's special recipe. But part of it is you have to tell a certain type of story while you're baking to make it come out right. And it's a story about coming together and it's a very specific story. So they tell this story while they're baking, and it's a fun tale. I mean, these adventures are meant for more all ages readers, stuff like that. So it's a very light story. It's a good story. But the interesting thing to me is that they put the recipe in the back for basically these, what they caramel vanilla tarts is kind of what they are.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So here you go. You could get something, you could read the story, and then at the end, you could get a recipe out of it, which I thought was kind of cool. Hello, Ronald.
And, again, if you're making a tart, you have to first bake the shell so that you don't get a soggy bottom.
Yes.
All right.
Or you pre-buy the pre-made tart. When I make a lemon tart.
Do you not watch the Great British Bake Off?
I do. But I use Anthony Bourdain's recipe for a lemon tart.
Oh, see, I use Mary Berry's.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got
you can't buy a pre-made shell. Can't do it. Pre-made crust.
Well,
Anthony Bourdain's right
recipe,
off the show.
Anthony Bourdain's recipe says, you use this shell that we made on this previous page. Well, I'm like, well, if it's on someone's already made it, I'll just go get that one.
No, they'll vote you right off the show. Noel Fielding won't be able to save you. It'll be a whole thing.
Yeah, I know.
By the way, Matt Berry, who is his sidekick now on that show, is wonderful.
That's the same actor who's doing 8B8 on Boba Fett and is in What We Do in the Shadows. Dark hair, kind of heavy set.
No, I mistook Matt Berry for somebody else. Hold on. Hold on.
It's not that important.
It is now. It's going to bother me. Cast. Not listed. Okay. Moving on.
Okay.
This is the other book I read every word of. Yeah, Jeff, it's a different Matt. It's not Matt Berry. It's a different Matt.
Yeah.
He's not on a baking show. But Matt Berry was really good on the IT Crowd.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll go back to that. This is the other book I read every word of. Regarding the matter of Oswald's body, number 3.
I was putting the books together and I'm like, you know what? We've got so many books. We got lots of Boom Studio books. But we got to keep going on this one.
Right. And ironically, I just bought another book I bought a book on Audible called The Other Oswald.
Hmm.
The Other Oswald, A Wilderness of Mirrors, the story of Lee Harvey Oswald and Robert E. Webster. Robert E. Webster essentially was another person like Oswald who had been involved in some maybe military stuff and had a very particular set of skills, except his were a little more white collar. Whereas Oswald was a shooter. This is somebody who would mess you up with money or math. But anyhow,
interesting.
So to me, I will say this book to me, just kind of continued down the rabbit hole of the conspiracy theories that we were already kind of involved in.
Yeah.
Didn't really forward the plot as much as I thought it could have.
Yeah, it felt like everything they did was predictable in this one.
Right, but it just kind of, oh, what a tangled web we weave, kind of continued to weave the web.
Yeah. Is this a 4-issue series? Because if so, I could see them wrapping it up, and then this is just kind of the connecting the dots episode or issue.
There's at least 5 on solicitation.
Oh my gosh.
Well, it's so I see this one, issue 4 comes out February 16th, and issue 5 comes out March 16th. It may just be a 5-issue miniseries.
Yeah.
But I don't see anywhere where it says 4 of 5 or 3 of 5 or any of that kind of stuff. Let me.
Did you get to fill in the girl and the Texas?
The final issue.
Okay. Do you get a feeling between the girl and the guy from Wisconsin with the cowboy hat? There's something going on between the two of them. There's a little, yeah.
Well, they're from Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I mean, like I said, this book.
I'm enjoying the hell of this series. Yeah.
Yes, 100%. Just kept weaving that web of misdirection and confusion. So, all right. Those are all of our books for this week. Yeah, we got through them all, Dan.
Wow.
It helps when I don't have time to read. But next week I'll be back to reading everything with Dan, and including some stuff usually that Dan can't get his hands on. But I'm pleased to announce we will start having read 5 books for this show very soon. So that'll be nice. But stay tuned immediately following us for EXP Expo, continuing with Ben Humenek and Mog Park after that. Dan will be back tomorrow with the Dan Wickline Show and Thursday, and then hopefully this weekend. What are you talking about tomorrow, Dan?
Tomorrow we're talking about the Moon Knight trailer that dropped and why people should stop saying that Moon Knight is Marvel's Batman. He's very much like a different character, and you'll find out tomorrow which character that is.
Is it that Moon Knight is Marvel's Moon Knight? All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks for hanging out.